What's up? This is Brendan Vanson from Brendan Vanson Travel Photography, and I've got another travel photography critique here for you. This is from Ric Gazarian. From Ric Gazarian, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Let's get on with this critique. If you want your images, your travel photography critiqued, head over to my website, brendansadventures.com, and hit up the contact page here with a link to a Flickr page with 5 to 10 images of your best travel photography, and I'll do my best to get to your work and give you a bit of a critique, some constructive criticism. Let's get to Ric's work. First image, a classic image from obviously a cemetery, probably a military cemetery. It's an okay image. For me, I really would like to see better lines. I would have liked to see you find somewhere that had like some nice symmetry and some nice rolling lines. It's okay. It's not bad. It's shot right. Let me look at the data over here. It's shot on the 18-270, which I believe is a Tamarind lens. Set Tamarind 3.5 to 5.6 or 6.3 or something like that. Anyways, it's a decent lens for the crop sensor camera. It's kind of a cheaper version, but it's not bad. You shot this at 270 millimeters and f8. If I were you, I would have shot that much lower than f8 to try to draw some more of the depth of field, maybe like just 7.1 even, or 6.3. But again, the big thing with this image, I think, is the lines. You've really got to work on creating the lines of the image. Use these crosses to your advantage. Next image from Ric. This is a Buddha, and this Buddha is out of focus, I believe. Of course, it could be Flickr, but it does look to me to be out of focus here, and that's the big thing. Otherwise, to be honest, it doesn't really do anything for me. It doesn't really tell a story. It's just kind of Buddha's head here. Again, shot on what I believe is that Tamarind lens, f5.6, which is okay, f100. When you're shooting at 59 millimeters indoors, you might want to crank the ISO to 2 or 400 here on a big heavy lens like that. And yeah, but yeah, the image just doesn't really do that much for me. I would have tried to tell more of a story with the image here, and it's got to be sharp. The Chicago bean. It's okay. I like the use of the reflection. You did a nice job cropping the image as well to make sure you got in. I think you probably did too much. I think you should have focused less on cropping this and got more of the bean and the skyline in. That's what I would have done anyways. I also would have shot this earlier in the day, during the blue hour rather than at night. You can also tell your white balance is really, really orange here. It's really, really warm. I'd cool that down a bit. Shot on the 17 to 50 millimeter, which must be another Tamarind lens. Actually, I think that's the Tamarind f2.8 lens, which is a good lens for the crop sensor, the 50D. You shot this at f2.8, which I wouldn't have done that. I would have shot this way longer than that on the tripod. 3.2 seconds, it's okay. Aperture priority mode, that's fine. 31 millimeters. Yeah, I would have cranked this up a bit. I can see what you're trying to do. You're trying to blur out the background or the foreground, but as you can see from the image, nothing is blurred out. I would have just shot that like f9 to make sure everything was really sharp. Moving on, some kids at a political thing, I'm guessing. I really have no idea what's going on with this image. The truth is, you have to tell a story with your image, and to me, these are just a couple kids with some painting on their face, which might work with a greater photo story, but with an image like this, it doesn't really stand alone. It's just a photo of some kids, in my opinion. You shot this again on what I think is that Tamarind lens, f5.6. The data's all cool. The data's fine. Technically, it's sound. It just, for me, it's not really telling a story, and it probably could be telling a story, but it's sharp. The data's right. Technically speaking, the image is fine. It's just from a travel photography standpoint, it doesn't tell me any story. The lion's nice. Yeah, it's a nice looking lion. It looks sharp. You shot it f9. I probably would have brought that down a bit just to make sure it was sharp enough. But I can't really complain about that. Everything looks good with this image. Maybe cut off the grass a little bit on the top, a bit like this, when you framed your shot. But honestly, I like it. I like the lion. I tend to prefer a lion with the open eyes, but it's a nice shot. I'd like to have that image. Good work on that one. Angkor Wat. I like this. I love this, actually. This is really beautiful. You've got nice light on the focus in the foreground, and you've got this subtle hint from Angkor Wat in here. And you can tell it's Angkor Wat, but it's more of a subtle image rather than that classic sunrise photo that you see. I really like this image. Let's move over to the data. You're showing f2.8, which I'm assuming you did to try to blur out the background, which is fine by me. You shot this on the 50mm Canon f1.8. Aperture priority mode 200. The flash is on, and I'm not sure why. Maybe you were hoping to get some more light on this. Maybe it worked. I don't think you needed the flash on. Just a guess. At 50mm, I'm not sure that would have actually lit this up. And if it did, then you did it right. But my guess is you did not need to shoot the flash off there at all. But I like this image, so I can't complain about the flash being fired. It's beautiful. I love it. This is Antarctica. I miss Antarctica. And that's a beautiful penguin. It's a little bit soft. I think your focus is actually back here, or maybe it's just too much in focus. You shot f10. I would have put the focus right on that penguin's eye and shot this like f4, f5.6, somewhere around that, just to blur the background and make sure the penguin's focused. The other thing I would have done is taken the penguin right out of the middle of the shot and moved it to 2/3 over here, or even over here. But the exposure looks right. It's really hard to get the exposure right with snow and ice. Usually people have the shot way underexposed and everything turns out gray, but it looks okay. The sky's beautiful. Those Antarctic skies are amazing. I need to get back to Antarctica. I need to. I like it. Like I just said, you've got to work on the composition. Move this penguin to right here and maybe increase the depth of field a little bit by dropping down to f5.6, and you've got a nice image. You've shot this in program mode, and that is probably where the problem happened. I'm guessing you're shooting this on an older camera, so I'm guessing this is when you were starting out, and you've probably moved out of auto from that point. For those of you that don't know, program mode is auto without the flash firing. So basically it guesses your aperture and your shutter speed for you, and you don't worry about that flash popping up on your old Rebel camera. So I'm sure you've gotten out of auto by now because your other images seem to be, but if you're still in auto, that probably caused the minor issues that you have with this image, just not being the right aperture. But yeah, like Antarctica, it's hard to take a bad picture, isn't it? It's an amazing place. Let's move on to the next image. We've got a dude in the Middle East somewhere, maybe Morocco. That's Africa, I know. But anyway, I'm not sure where this image is. I'm guessing by all the spices and stuff like that, you're probably in Morocco. And you've shot this again on program mode with the digital Rebel from when you were starting out. And you got kind of lucky with this one, I think, because the program mode's spot on with the data. But since you shot this in program mode, there's nothing I can tell you about the data because you didn't choose that. This ISO 400 is fine, 1/60 is fine, f5 is fine. The flash firing is even okay in this situation, and it seemed to turn out okay. But since you shot it on auto, I'm going to tell you instead about the composition. And with the composition, you put him right in the middle again. If you would have moved yourself over to this side of the image a bit more and created an angle like this, you would have put his head right in this arch, and you would have had really nice lines, and you would have framed the whole image. And that's what I would have done. So the composition's a little bit off with him right in the middle. The expression is nice, and it seems sharp enough, but it's just you got to work on that composition a little bit with this. Next image. This is a punk rocker or heavy metal band, and it's sharp. It's a good reaction, and you see the difference when he's over here at 2/3 it just looks so much better to me anyway. It creates a line for me to just stare at and then move on to look at the rest of the image. You shot this on full on auto mode, so that's action mode in auto. Get out of auto. You gotta shoot this stuff in AV mode at least, preferably manual if you can, but you gotta get out of auto for the cleanest images. Your camera did right by going f5.6 here. That's what I would have done. ISO is too high at 250. When you're shooting 1/1000, it's probably unnecessary to be ISO 250. You can get a higher quality image at ISO 100 and then 1/500 or 1/400, something like that. But the composition's right, so you've got that going for you. Last image, again, with the person right in the middle of the shot. The other thing is the scooter in the background is distracting. I know the scooters come out of nowhere. I'm guessing this is Angkor Wat as well. But if you would have shot this from this side of the image pointing that way, you would have had the scooter here, and it would have been less distracting. But you really, really got to get your subjects out of the middle, and you've got to get out of auto. Flash is fired, and it actually looks like it worked really well here with your flash. You've got nice even light throughout the shot. Just move your subject over, get rid of the distracting elements in the background, and get out of auto, and you're okay. And that's it for the critique, the travel photography critique. I do this stuff not to be harsh, but to give you constructive criticism. So if you want constructive criticism on how to improve your travel photography, head over to brendansadventures.com, head to the contact page, and send me a link to a Flickr folder, Flickr album with 5 to 10 of your favorite travel photography images, and I will critique them. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're interested in seeing these travel photography critiques. Even if it's not your work, it can be very helpful to watch me go after and criticize some of these images. So that's it for Brendan Vance's travel photography and the travel photography critique. I hope you stick around. I'll see you next time. Peace.